I stood on the observation deck of the Kozari's breath, my 6 tendrils coiled tightly against my carapace as I gazed out at the endless void. The stars glittered like the eyes of the ancestors, cold and unblinking, watching over the Excytherian dominion. My people had sailed this cosmic sea for millennia, our crystalline ships cutting through the dark with the precision of a predator's claw. I, Vexthra, was a listener, one of the elite tasked with hearing the whispers of the universe, signals, anomalies, anything that might threaten our dominion or hint at new worlds to claim. My shell gleamed faintly under the dim light of the deck, a soft violet sheen that marked me as one of the highborn. Pride swelled in my twin hearts as I considered the might of our fleet, the Zentra Collective, a force so vast and advanced that no species had ever dared challenge it. The signal came at the edge of the Tharxis expanse, a region we'd long dismissed as barren. It was faint at first, a rhythmic pulse buried in the static of deep space, barely audible over the hum of our ship's resonance core. I adjusted the receptor lattice with a flick of my tendril, narrowing the bandwidth until the sound sharpened into something unmistakable, a distress call. Not one of ours, nor from any of the vassal species under our sway. It was alien, primitive, a crude burst of electromagnetic waves carrying a message in a language I didn't recognize. I summoned my aide, Cleesera, a wiry lowborn with a knack for decryption. "What is it, listener?" she asked, her low buzz through her vocal slits. Her amber eyes flicked to the display as the signal looped again. "Unknown origin," I said, my own a deeper hum. "Translate it." She worked quickly, her tendrils dancing over the console. The lattice hummed as it passed the data, and within moments, words formed on the screen, crude, blocky symbols that resolved into something intelligible. "This is the Terran vessel Odyssey. We are under attack, requesting immediate assistance. Coordinates attached." Terran? Cleesera tilted her head, her carapace clicking faintly. "Never heard of them, nor have I admitted." The name tugged at some distant memory, a footnote in an old survey report perhaps, but nothing significant. Likely some insignificant species, barely spacefaring. Still, protocol demands we investigate. Plot the coordinates. The Kozari's breath shifted course, its crystalline hull refracting the starlight as we sped toward the source. I expected little, a wrecked ship perhaps, or a band of scavengers picking over the remains. The Dominion had encountered countless such primitives, their technologies laughably outdated, their civilizations crumbling at the mere sight of our fleets. I imagined a quick assessment, a report filed, and a return to more pressing matters. My mandibles twitched in mild amusement at the thought of this Terran vessel, likely a rusting hulk broadcasting its final gasps. We arrived at the edge of a debris field, a swirling cloud of shattered metal and flickering energy signatures. The scanners painted a chaotic picture, fragments of a ship, its design blocky and inelegant, strewn across the void. But there was something else, another vessel, larger, its hull, a jagged mess of spikes and glowing conduits. A Krevax raider. My amusement faded. The Krevax were a nuisance, a nomadic species of scavengers and pirates who preyed on weaker civilizations. Their ships were formidable in a brutish way, but nothing our fleet couldn't crush with ease. "Listener," Cleesera said, her tight. "The distress signal, it's still active." I turned to the display. She was right. Amid the wreckage, a faint pulse persisted, emanating from a small, intact section of the Terran ship. A survivor perhaps, or a trap? I hesitated, then signaled the bridge. "Deploy a scout drone. I want eyes on that signal." The drone launched with a soft thrum, its crystalline shell shimmering as it darted into the debris field. The feed flickered to life on the observation screen, revealing a scene that made my tendrils stiffen. The Crevax raider was circling the Terran wreck like a predator sizing up its kill. Its weapons, crude plasma cannons, glowed faintly, primed to fire, but the Terran ship, or what was left of it, wasn't silent. A single turret, mounted on the surviving fragment, swiveled jerkily, tracking the raider. A flash of light erupted from it, and a beam of concentrated energy lanced across the void, striking the Crevax ship's flank. The raider shuddered, a plume of gas venting from the wound, but it didn't retreat. Instead, it returned fire, a barrage of plasma bolts that reduced the Terran fragment to a glowing husk. Primitive, but stubborn, I muttered. No survivors now. Khalisara's eyes narrowed. Listener, the signal, it's changed. I checked the display. She was right again. The distress call had shifted, the rhythm quickening, the message expanding. This is the Terran vessel Odyssey. Crevax raiders have destroyed us. To any who hear this, beware. Earth's fleet is coming. Coordinates attached. Earth, I said, tasting the unfamiliar word. Their homeworld, perhaps. And they think to threaten us with a fleet. My mandibles clicked in disdain. The Crevax were a minor annoyance, and this Earth sounded like a backwater barely worth noting. Still, the defiance in the message piqued my curiosity. I ordered the drone to sweep the area for more data, but before it could finish, the sensors screamed a warning. Multiple signatures inbound, Khalisara shouted. Unknown configuration. Fast. The void erupted with light as ships dropped out of whatever primitive faster-than-light system these Terrans used. They were nothing like our sleek, crystalline vessels, nor the jagged brutality of the Crevax. These were angular, utilitarian, their hulls a dull grey marred with scorch marks and patches. Dozens of them, ranging from small dart-like craft to a massive slab-sided behemoth that dwarfed even the Khazari's breath. My twin hearts pulsed unevenly. This was no ragtag band of survivors, this was a fleet, and it moved with purpose. Raise shields, I ordered, my steady despite the sudden tightness in my chest. Open a channel, let's see what these Terrans want. The comms crackled, and a face appeared on the screen, not unlike ours, but softer, with only 2 eyes and no carapace. Its skin was a pale beige, its head topped with a bristling mane of dark strands. It spoke, it's a harsh growl filtered through a translator. This is Admiral Karavos of the Terran Expeditionary Force. You're in our space now. Identify yourselves, or we'll assume you're with the raiders. I straightened, my tendrils unfurling slightly. I am Vexthra, listener of the Exetherian Dominion, aboard the Khazari's Breath. We received your distress signal, and came to investigate. We are not your enemy, yet. The human, Voss narrowed her eyes, a gesture I didn't fully understand, but took as suspicion. Investigate, hun. Looks like you got here just in time to watch the Crevax finish the job. Lucky timing. We had no part in your ship's fate, I said, keeping my tone even. The Crevax are known to us. Parasites. Nothing more. If you seek retribution, we won't interfere. Her lips curled, baring teeth, in what might have been a smile or a snarl. Retribution's already on the menu. You're welcome to watch. Before I could respond, her fleet sprang into motion. The smaller ships darted forward, weaving through the debris with an agility that belied their clunky design. The Crevax raider turned to meet them, its plasma cannons blazing, but the Terrans didn't falter. One of their craft took a direct hit, spinning out of control, but the others pressed on, firing beams and projectiles in a chaotic but oddly coordinated assault. The larger Terran ship lumbered forward, its hull bristling with turrets that unleashed a storm of kinetic rounds, simple, solid slugs that tore through the raiders' shields like they were nothing. I watched, mandibles parted in disbelief, as the Crevax ship buckled under the onslaught. Our weapons were elegant, precise, designed to disable with minimal waste. These Terrans fought like beasts, throwing everything they had in a relentless barrage. The raider's hull cracked, then shattered, its core erupting in a silent fireball that scattered debris across the void. In moments, it was over. Crevasseur's tendrils trembled. They destroyed it, with such crude tools. Crude, yes, I said, my low. But effective. Voss's face reappeared on the screen. That's one down. We've got more Crevax signals deeper in the expanse. You're either with us or in our way. Pick a side. I hesitated. The Dominion didn't bow to ultimatums, especially not from primitives. But there was something in her eyes, something fierce, unyielding, that made me pause. We will observe, I said finally. Nothing more. Suit yourself, she replied, and the channel cut off. The Terran fleet didn't wait for us. They surged into the Tharx's expanse, their ships vanishing into the dark like a swarm of stinging insects. I ordered the Crevasse Wraith to follow at a distance, curiosity outweighing my disdain. These Terrans were nothing like the species we'd subjugated, soft-bodied, short-lived, yet they fought with a ferocity that rivaled even the Crevax. I needed to understand them. Days passed as we trailed them, watching as they hunted down Crevax raiders with ruthless efficiency. Their tactics were sloppy by our standards, relying on brute force and sheer numbers, but they adapted. When a raider ambushed them from an asteroid field, they turned the terrain to their advantage, luring it into a trap of mines, simple explosives that ripped the enemy apart. When another raider tried to flee, they pursued it relentlessly, their smaller ships harrying it until the behemoth could close in for the kill. Each victory chipped away at my certainty, replacing it with a nagging unease. They don't tire, Crevasseur's said one cycle, her eyes fixed on the scanner. They lose ships, take damage, but they keep going. They're desperate, I replied, though the word felt hollow. Desperation implied weakness, and these Terrans didn't seem weak. Reckless perhaps, but not fragile. Then came the anomaly, a new signal, stronger than the first, pulsing from the heart of the expanse. The Terrans altered course immediately, and we followed, drawn by the same invisible thread. What we found defied comprehension, a Crevax armada, dozens of ships clustered around a massive structure, a lattice of metal and energy that dwarfed anything I'd seen. A weapon perhaps, or a fortress. The Terrans didn't hesitate. They charged in, their fleet splitting into smaller groups that struck from every angle. I watched, tendrils rigid, as chaos unfolded. The Crevax fought back with disciplined precision, their plasma barrages cutting through Terran ships with brutal efficiency. For a moment, I thought the humans would break, but they didn't. The behemoth, which I'd learned was called the Titan, took the brunt of the assault, its hull glowing red from the heat of sustained fire. Yet it kept moving, its weapons roaring, tearing into the Crevax line. Smaller ships darted in its wake, exploiting every gap, every weakness. Listener, Crevasseur's said, her a whisper. They're winning. She was right. The Crevax armada was crumbling, ship by ship, overwhelmed by the Terrans' relentless assault. I couldn't look away, couldn't shake the growing realization that these primitives, soft, short-lived, crude, were doing what no species had done before, defying the odds, defying logic, defying us. The climax came when the Titan rammed the Crevax structure, its hull splitting the lattice apart in a cascade of fire and debris. The armada faltered, then broke, scattering into the void as the Terrans pursued. When the last Crevax ship fell, Voss's crackled over the comms again, unbidden. That's for the Odyssey, she said, her tone flat but laced with something I couldn't name. Pride, perhaps, or defiance. You still watching, Vexthra? I am, I replied, my steady despite the storm in my hearts. You fight well for primitives. She laughed, a sharp, barking sound. Primitives, huh? Keep telling yourself that. Next time, maybe you'll join us instead of watching. The channel cut off, leaving me staring at the wreckage. The Terrans lingered only long enough to salvage what they could, then vanished into the dark, their fleet a fading smear against the stars. I stood there, silent, as Crevassras worked the console beside me. "They're not like the others," she said at last. "They don't bend." "No," I agreed. "They break everything else instead." I filed my report to the Dominion that cycle, detailing the Terrans' actions, their fleet, their impossible victory. But as I sent it, I knew it wouldn't be enough. Words couldn't capture what I'd seen. The fire in their eyes, the stubbornness in their bones, the way they turned desperation into strength. The Highborn would dismiss them, as I had, until they saw it for themselves, and they would see it. The Terrans had marked this expanse as theirs, and I doubted they'd stop there. The Zentra Collective might be the mightiest fleet in the galaxy, but for the first time, I wondered if that would be enough. The stars glittered outside, cold and unblinking, and I felt a shiver ripple through my carapace. Humanity, it seemed, was a force we hadn't accounted for, a distress signal that had summoned not just a fleet, but a reckoning.